A few years ago, I heard a sermon, How to Know God's Will for Your Life. The speaker was Dr. George Wood, and he had done a lot of thinking about how to set up the plan for what you're going to be when you grow up. There were two strange words in that sermon, Moravian pietists. If you don't know what a pietist is, neither did I. It could have been some kind of ecclesiastical tart for all I knew, but of course, an esteemed churchman like Dr. Wood wouldn't be talking about ecclesiastical tarts. He told us the 17th century pietists were folks who sometimes sought God's will by flipping open a Bible, pinning a finger to the page somewhere, then decoding God's will from a random scripture. Bible darts, except with fingers. But he reminded us, while the practice might not be totally defensible, well-respected believers like Lillian Trasher actually sought ministry confirmation this way. She went on to establish a legendary orphanage in Egypt. He made another point, the little old lady in the soup aisle asking Jesus whether she should buy chicken soup or beef or vegetable. Dr. Wood said, as we piece together God's will for where we're going in life, soup is the least of our worries. That Sunday morning, I had a déjà vu moment. The sermon reminded me of a conversation I'd had more than 3 decades before. It took place back in 1969. One of my best friends and I were in a VW bus, Saturday night, A&W drive-in, watching girls, eating cheeseburgers with 2,000 fat grams. That was our tradition in those days. And from such a noble and lofty perch, an 18 and 19-year-old were conducting a discourse on the plan, what we were going to be when we grew up. My friend was younger than I, but super smart and methodical. He told me he was going to get his bachelor's, go for his master's, then get married. After that, he and his new wife would be youth pastors at a large church near a seminary where he would get his doctorate of divinity. After that, he figured he'd be a missionary for 10 years, then move back to the States and get a job as a professor or a national director for a church organization. He got more and more encouraged about the future as he talked up his life plan. My slightly less specific life map included making $1 million, scoring a BMW, owning a nice house, and remembering to hold the onions on my next triple meat and cheese. Some of what he was talking about hadn't occurred to me yet. The evening left me depressed, but it brings up an interesting question. How do you scope out the future? Well, think about it. Every vocation gets rolled. Any plan you set up in the here and now will have to take nourishment from a higher protein than you're going to find in the here and now, which is not what my friend and I were doing. We were running on cheeseburgers, basically, exploring the future based on what 18 and 19-year-olds know about the cosmos. And in my case, that didn't add up to a lot. And let's be clear about something. This doesn't just have to do with being young. Middle-aged people hear about someone else's life of significance, and at night stare out at personal disappointment wondering, where's mine? Did I miss a turn? That 20-something kid with a BMW today. Could Santa have accidentally missed my house and given my life to a rich kid? No matter how perceptive or lucky we are, most of us eventually find out any and all plans are subject to change. How many men planned to become riverboat pilots in the 1800s only to have the railroad show up on them? Or railroaders who got derailed when cars, trucks, and the federal highway system turned into reality? You can't control the future. And since the future interacts so unpredictably with all our plans, why even try? Why plan at all? How life and destiny interact is a huge mystery. But consider reoccurring testimonials from the near-death experience, where a person on the brink is confronted with the question, are you finished with your life's work? Make what you will of the near-death experience, this seems to indicate that something big is going on inside your life plan. If these reports from the brink turn out to be a fact for the rest of us, have you finished your work may be on everyone's exit interview. For Christians, it suggests God does care what we do. Maybe our plan won't recast the space-time continuum, but it's not pure vanity that drives us to wonder about what we're going to be when we grow up. It's a God-created value. We may not actually know for a fact what we're good for, or how our life serves the greater good, but most of us have a nagging instinct we were put here for a purpose. Dr. Wood untangled the problem very neatly, and if there's an executive summary, this is it. God's will for your life begins in your character. We would all like to see the big picture. Where will I be 10 years from now? But it's generally the will of God being lived out daily. If I am in the will of God today, I can have the great confidence that I will be in His will tomorrow.